Welcome to Totally Woman Podcast. Totally Woman is a bi-weekly podcast that uncovers essential health knowledge and highlights inspiring journeys that transforms women's lives. I'm your host, Rosemarie Crosdale, a licensed adult gerontology nurse practitioner, and this season, we want to hear from you. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Welcome back to the Totally Woman Podcast. I am your host, Rosemarie Crosdale. I am a registered nurse. I'm also an adult gerontology nurse practitioner. And if you've been listening to me, you know that women's health is my passion. I just feel that our bodies are, phenomenal. First of all, we can give birth, right? Our bodies are just amazing. But, there's so many stigmas attached to women's health, how we get treated, how we get cared for, how providers treat us, when you go in for your symptoms, sometimes things are overlooked and all of that. And that is my passion. And this is the reason why I have this podcast. And before I go any further, can I just thank everyone who has just continued to be with me? You have continued to support me in so many ways. Can I just say thank you? I am so full of gratitude. I cannot thank you enough to all of my listeners. I have listeners all over the world. I have people listening to me from the Netherlands. Thank you, Netherlands, for joining and for listening. Thank you so much. I thank you for the ones who have, continued to stay with me. I just want to give you all a big shout out. Shout out to every one of you. You are truly, truly appreciated. Okay. Before I go any further, if you guys, have been listening, we're in the height of season 3. This is episode 3. But if you were listening to episode 2, which was our last episode, and, even the 2 episodes that we've done so far, we've been talking about perimenopause and we've been also talking about menopause, right? That is where a lot of us are finding ourselves right now. And on episode 2, I had the pleasure of talking to a young lady. Her name is Jennifer Renaud. And I just want to say thank you. A big shout out from the Totally Woman environment, just to thank you, Jen, for joining us and for sharing your story. And women, ladies, this is just to show you how everybody, how individually made up we are, because everyone has their own specific symptoms, their own specific journey of going into either, whether you're in perimenopause or whether you're in menopause. And Jen's journey, if you listen to the episode, just a quick recap, is that she has kidney disease. And that was one of the ways that she actually found out that she was in perimenopause. I'll encourage you, if you haven't, done so as yet, just to tune in and go and listen to wherever you get your podcast and just check out episode 2. So, this is episode 3. Today we're on to episode 3 already. Time is just moving along so fast. And we're still talking about this perimenopause and menopause. And I just want to say, like I've been saying before, that no one size fits all, right? Some of us, yes, across the board, we may share some of the same symptoms, like sometimes the hot flashes, sometimes the mood swings, the common things. A lot of women sometimes experience that, but sometimes other women are going through other things where, sometimes they get to the point where they're having like depression. Some of them aren't able to even, navigate themselves to work and to do certain things because the symptoms for them are so overwhelming and they sometimes take over their activities of daily living. So we have women who are struggling in that area as well. And I'm just here to support each and every individual lady to say to you that whatever stage you find yourself in, wherever you are, in this, they call it the second stage of puberty. It's no puberty at all, but that's what it's being referred to as sometimes. When we talk about perimenopause, you're in so many different transition period, right? You're experiencing some of the hot flashes, the mood swings. You still have your cycle, but sometimes what happens is because of the estrogen production going down and decreasing, your cycle now has become so irregular. And women understand that during this perimenopause phase, some women have been known to get pregnant. So watch out for that, especially if you're still getting your cycle. You can still get pregnant during this. My grandmother, it happened to her. She called it her change of life baby because it happened to her during this perimenopause stage. And after that, she actually, after giving birth, she went into menopause. So, perimenopause, you're still experiencing those symptoms. You're still having your cycle. But at this stage, sometimes things are, you're not getting a regular period. Your period's now probably every 4 months, sometimes not even 4 months, 5 months. You're still having your cycles, but you're still experiencing some of the symptoms of menopause as well. And remember, when you do have menopause, the actual way to know that you are in menopause is that you have no period for an entire year. And that would be the absence of the period for an entire year is when you know that you're actually in menopause. So if that hasn't happened to you yet and you're experiencing some of the other symptoms that I talked about, then that would mean that you're still in the perimenopause phase. Some of these things, it's like, what do I do with my body? What is happening to my body, right? What is going on with my body? Because some of these things are new. And another thing that I wanted to point out, ladies, not every woman will experience some of the symptoms that we're talking about. Some women, their transition is easy, smooth, no problem. They go through this transition period from perimenopause, they go right to menopause. They have no hot flashes. They have none of these symptoms. Some of them are clueless. I've spoken to a bunch of ladies who have said that they have not experienced some of the issues that we are talking about because not everybody will experience it, right? Because everybody is different. We don't know how your body is gonna deal with this phase of life, this new phase. But kudos to those women, those ladies, and then they understand that this is the phase that they're in because now they're not having their regular periods. So they know that they're either in their menopause stage or they're still having their cycle, even though they're probably in their late 40s to early mid 50s, right? Which is around the time when these things can start happening to you. Okay. Another thing that I wanted to point out also is that sometimes, we hear a lot about, the home remedies and different things that you could be doing and stuff like that. And I find myself, I'm going to use myself as an example because I'm now in the menopause stage. Right now, for me, even just losing weight, and even though I'm doing some exercise here and there, I'm doing some strength training and stuff like that, trying to eat better as well, make sure that I'm incorporating like protein, just having a well-balanced diet, right? Making sure that I'm getting enough fruits and vegetables and stuff like that, taking my vitamins and different things like that. But sometimes, even doing those things and some of the other things that they say that we can do in terms of, you know, cutting back with certain things and these things, some things help and some things they don't help, right? So sometimes it's like trial and error. You just try certain things to see that if it helps you or if it doesn't help you. I try to do a little walking. I also try to do a little strength training, with doing weights and stuff like that. And I do find that I actually feel a little bit better when I do those things just for myself, right? So everybody's different. But as we get older, it's very important, especially, as we get older, our bones, they in order to strengthen our muscles and our bones, lifting some weights, making sure that we're walking. That helps also with our cardiovascular health. Now that we're getting older, strength training helps also, osteoporosis as we're getting older, our bones can get more brittle and stuff like that. So we have to be very careful during this transition period that we're also taking care of our health. We're taking care of ourselves. We're following up with our doctors. And ladies, remember that even though I'm giving you these tips and saying certain things to you, I want to make sure that you're also following up with your primary doctor. Okay, following up with your doctor. I know sometimes even just getting your hormones checked, different things like that. For those of you who are in relationships, you're married, you have your partner or whatever kind of relationship you're in, sometimes this problem, it end up affecting not just you, but it can affect your family as well, because you going through those changes and that you want the thermostat to be at 50. Meantime, everybody, it's the dead of winter, and you want it on 50, and then the family, they're freezing and all of that, and they don't understand. So the conversation is worth having, right? Because sometimes now you have decreased libido, you're not interested in any sexual activity and stuff like that. And these are things that can affect you. You have to talk to your partner. Communication at this stage is very, very important, to let your immediate family, your spouse, the conversation is worth having. Right. So it's worth having the conversation, because this is not something that you're going through by yourself. And a lot of times as women, we just take on so many things. We don't ask for help. We want to do a lot of things on our own. And just going through this period, just going through this transition period, sometimes you need some help. You need help. You may need help to talk to someone, because now you don't even understand what is happening to you. Sometimes even just talking and navigating your way through either your primary doctor or your GYN, you're saying to yourself, and sometimes you go there and you ask the questions and you don't get the answers that you need. So sometimes before you go for your visit, in order to prepare, if something comes to your mind, because guess what? There's no stupid question, right? It's only stupid when you don't ask it. So it's better to ask it and you know the answer. And sometimes they may not have the answer for you. Sometimes this is something that, you may just have to find out. Sometimes talking to other women helps as well. Talking to a therapist. Some of you are going through this stage. It can be very depressing for you because you once found yourself to be very active. Now, sometimes with the brain fog, the mood swings, some of you, you're probably sleeping a little bit more than you normally sleep. The night sweats are no joke. Those will just wake you up. You're totally soaking wet. And then all of a sudden now you get a little bit dry, and then you're shivering and you're cold, right? So just going through all of these things, it's not easy at all. And if you do have your spouse or you do have your partner, then these are things that they're going to be going through with you as well. So communication is key. Communicate with your partner. Let them know what is going on with you. You can't just say no all the time. And every night you're like, no, 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 no. At some point, they're going to be like, what is going on, right? So having that talk is very, very important. And ladies, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad, because sometimes you go to your doctor and, I've seen some women too, they've talked about some of the issues that they're facing. Like they go to their doctor, they talk to them about certain things and they're just brushed off, or they're made to feel like, okay, then what you're going through is just, just suck it up and just deal with it, in that kind of mentality. And you don't have to go through that alone. You don't have to experience that alone. And there's help out there. There are resources. If you go into some of these websites, you type in issues women are facing with menopause, even if you go on Google and stuff like that, and you find information, there's information out there. There's a wealth of information, but you just have to make sure that the information that you're getting and that you're also checking some of these things with your doctor as well, just to make sure. Sometimes we have to make sure, like with our wellness, that, we're doing our physicals, we're making sure that if you're hypertensive, if you're on medications, that you're taking your medications, you're keeping hydrated. People talk a lot about also taking, apart from protein, there's so many different things that you could be doing and different supplements that you can add. And some of these supplements, sometimes they, will talk about, like, for example, like primrose oil or something like that, those will help people, that those will help women, especially with the hot flashes and stuff like that. Vitamin D, these things are very important as well, to make sure that you're taking your vitamin D supplements. That helps with immunity. It helps with your bone health and stuff like that. So, like, just making sure that you're taking supplements to help you. You know, Protein is not just about having like a protein powder and stuff like that. Sometimes we spend a lot of time talking about protein, but you can get protein from your food. You get protein from nuts. You get protein from, like, if you eat meat and stuff like that, you get protein from those things as well. They talk about, sometimes going through this too, like collagen, different things that you can use to help you during this transition period. Also, in the matter of sexual intercourse, I've heard of where they're talking about, like, with pebbles, and this is something that you, like, insert, like, it goes underneath your skin, and you insert, and that will help also to, with your hormones and stuff like that. I don't know exactly what is contained in these pebbles, but I know that it's something that is injected and that will help with, like, with your sexual health and stuff like that. They're often referred to as pebbles for menopause, and they involve inserting the hormone pellets under the skin to help manage menopause symptoms. So it does help manage menopause symptoms as well. And then, hormone replacement therapy. I know a lot of times that is looked down on, right? And there's some issues that you could be having why a hormone replacement therapy would not be good enough, would not be good for you. Like if you have a bleeding disorder, or some medications that you're on, if they cause like thinning of the blood and stuff like that, sometimes hormone replacement is not, you're not a good candidate for hormone replacement therapy. But a lot of times, women in the Black and brown community, we have been taught that hormone replacement therapy will give you cancer and it's not good for you and stuff like this. These are conversation, ladies, that are worth having with your GYN or your primary care provider, and find out, like, what are the advantages and disadvantages of doing that. Also, having your hormones checked. Have your hormones checked just to see also, what is going on with your hormones as well. So that is something that you can have done in with your blood work. Okay, so those are some of the things that you can do. Some of the side effects that they talk about with pellets is just like, maybe at the insertion sites where you get them placed, it could be like infection and stuff like that. But as with anything, because you're putting something foreign inside of your body's not used to having it there. So those are some of the risks that can happen. But like I said, the information that I'm giving you, yes, it's general information. And like I said, before you embark on any one of these treatments or ventures, you want to make sure that you're talking to your primary doctor or you're talking to your GYN about issues that are going on with you. So this perimenopause will go up until the time when you're now transitioning, you're fully into menopause. And then menopause will go up until you're postmenopausal, where you're now not into men. And this varies for women. This varies for women. Sometimes they say it's up until you're, 65 or 60 and stuff like that. And then there's some women who says, they're probably early 70s and something like that. And sometimes some of them maybe still have some symptoms. Not as much, but they probably will still get some symptoms. Another thing two that I want to talk about is that, okay, so now you're in menopause and then postmenopausal, just to touch on something very important with postmenopausal. So if you have been in menopause and then now all of a sudden, and especially if you did not have a hysterectomy, you still have your uterus, you still have your ovaries, and then all of a sudden you start to have some vaginal bleeding, that would be cause for concern. So if you're in menopause and then you now notice, so that when you're in menopause, you know that because you've not had a cycle for more than a year. That is how you know that you're in menopause, right? So if after being in menopause and then now you're going to notice that you're having bleeding, then that would be postmenopausal, and that's not a good thing. Okay. So if you notice bleeding after being in menopause, that is something that you want to make sure that you're checking on with your doctor. It could be a sign of ovarian cancer, especially if you still have your ovaries and you have your uterus. You've not had an hysterectomy, right? So you've never had a hysterectomy or anything. And sometimes it could be from vaginal dryness, but in order for you to know, you have to check, right? Vaginal dryness, this is something that a lot of women experience during this time as well. And sometimes just using like some, Surgery lube or gel or something like that, that can help with some of the dryness as well. Because sometimes the dryness can be very bad, very pronounced. And sometimes when you go and you're like, if you're cleaning yourself or if you're wiping yourself and stuff like that, then you can probably irritate yourself to the point where maybe there could be a little bit blood, a little bit of bleeding. So we just want to make sure that we're looking into that. And if that does happen, that you're following up with your primary doctor or your GYN doctor. Okay. So, ladies, during this phase, right? This phase is an ongoing phase for a lot of us. We're transitioning into this phase. We're finding now that some women are experiencing perimenopause. And, the other day I was taking stock of myself and I kind of was looking back and I realized that I probably had some perimenopause symptoms while I was in my 30s. And we're finding that now that women sometimes are experiencing some of these symptoms while they're in their, late to mid 30s and stuff like that. So perimenopause can start around that time. And this it's worth discussing, right? Because when you're going through it, you sometimes you don't know what is happening to you. But now that we're realizing that it can start as early as then the conversation is worth having. Okay. It's worth having with your doctor, it's worth having with your GYN. So I do encourage women, even if you're in your late 30s, mid 30s, and you notice that you're getting some of these symptoms, understand as well that they can be brought on by medication, they can be brought on by different things. Some women have issues with fibroids, they have issues with PCOS, along with some other issues that you may be having. So we just want to make sure of the actual phase that you're in. And the only way to know that is if you're following up with your doctor. Okay. So this is an ongoing phase. It is ongoing. We don't know. Sometimes it starts and then we're in it. But once you're in it, you're in it. And it's something that we have to deal with. But there are ways of dealing with it, and you're not alone. So many women are experiencing this now. Like I saw this lady, she have the We Do Not Care Club. I think her name is Melanie, and she started this because she's talking about women who are in perimenopause and menopause. And one of the videos, she has her glasses on top of her head, she have one on her eyes, and she's like, we do not care. We do not care if we're not putting on our glasses the way, or we don't even remember that we're wearing glasses. I do that a lot sometimes. That's why I have a chain attached to my glasses, but that's just another story. We won't talk about that right now. But these are things that are happening. These are real things. Sometimes you get up to do something and then you're like, what did I just get up to do? Right. And then you walk back and then all of a sudden it comes back to you and you remember it. But these are things that, these are real symptoms. These are real things that we're experiencing during this time. And the thing to know, ladies, is that you are not alone. So many other women are dealing with this. Some women are not dealing with it because they may not be experiencing it, but a lot of women are going through this. So you're not alone. I am here to support you. This podcast is here to support you. And, I just want to let all of you know that help is there. Help is available to you. But if you don't say anything, then nobody will be able to help you. And like I said, if you don't feel comfortable, if you don't feel like you're being heard, because a lot of times we go, to the doctor, we'll say what our symptoms are and stuff like that. And a lot of times it's like, okay, and you feel like maybe you're not being taken seriously. So if you feel that way, I always say, get referrals, get reviews about the doctors that you're choosing now, right? Because this is somebody that you're actually trusting with your health along with you as well. So do your research as well. Know your bodies, ladies. Nobody knows your body better than you. You know yourself. There are times when you have to take a mirror, you have to look at yourself. You have to know there are things on your body that is normal for you, so that if something pops up that wasn't there before, but how will you know if you've never looked, right? Some of us are so afraid to look at ourselves, because even just looking at our bodies, looking at our vaginas, how dare I say that, right? Take a mirror and look. You have to look. You have to look at your vaginas. Some of you, all in, I go back. Hygiene is my thing. We have to talk about that. Talking about hygiene, just the way you're cleaning yourself and doing. I don't know how we transition from menopause to hygiene, but everything works together, right? Everything works together. And hygiene is not self-care. I don't know where I heard that, but hygiene is a part of your life. Hygiene is what you do. Hygiene is how you clean yourself, how you take care of yourself. Self-care is like doing other steps to engage into different things to just help you along the way, different things you're prioritizing, right? Putting yourself that that you're supposed to be doing these things for yourself, but your hygiene, you shouldn't play with that, right? You should take care of yourself. You should take your showers, do what you had to do, dry yourself properly. Sometimes as we get older, we have folds, we have different things. We have to clean our skin properly, make sure that we're dry, moisturize. Even during the summer months now, it's very hot outside. Just making sure that you're actually wearing sunscreen. A lot of our makeup nowadays, some of it has SPF in it. They have sunscreen protection in it. So, and sometimes, and it doesn't have to be very expensive, ladies. There's certain things they're in the drugstore that is available. And these are some of the makeup that you use. They have the moisturizers that you're using. They have sunscreen in them. And this is how we protect our skin. Our skin is exposed to the sun. And yes, we want to be getting vitamin D and stuff like that. But during this time also, we have to notice if there's moles on our skin, different moles or anything that is changing and stuff like that. We have to pay attention to those things. I can't talk enough about hydration as well. Hydration helps in so many ways. Just drinking water, coconut water, having your fruits, watermelon, stuff like that. These are things that are hydrating, just to keep us hydrated, right? Those things can even help to decrease your blood pressure if you're hydrated, so just doing little things like that will help and will contribute to you having optimal health. But in order to get to that point, we have to be doing these things, because if you don't do it, you won't get the results that you need to get. And like I said, make sure that you're always checking with your doctor. So everything will contribute to you and to the whole entire being, to your whole entire being, and to your entire makeup. All right. So these are things that we just have to do. And when we're in these stages of, perimenopause and menopause, understand that there's help that is there for you. We just have to tap into it and get the help that we need. And as always, ladies, I am here to just support you throughout this entire journey. Like I said, I'm experiencing it myself, so I can always attest to that and even give you examples of some of the things that I am going through. So this is an ongoing thing. And of course, we're always going to continue to revisit it and to check in with you guys and to see how you're doing. Okay. And as always, ladies, as I always say, we want to always make sure that we're motivating, we're inspiring, and we're uplifting each other. That is the Totally Woman motto. Okay. So ladies, thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to join you on the next one. Totally Women podcast is hosted by Rosemarie Crosdale and powered by Indie Creative Podcasts.